quoting it. I want to find it for you here to read it. But basically, they're taking all these libertarian views and they're saying, oh, well, this person's crazy because... Here, I found it. Now, Reason.com has a good counterpoint. Robbie Sove. I don't know how to say his name. I probably should learn. But he's done a great job with this. The Washington Free Beacon piece has discovered Libertarian Girl, which is funny because, Libertarian Girl is something she does with her activism, and she works for Rand Paul as a social media person. She's a great person to do it, a great mind to have on that, because Libertarian Girl, you cannot deny her social media reach. I mean, and she's very smart. She's smart as a whip. And I'll read you the Alana Goodman post here, the article. I'll read you the part of it. Copenhagen has also opposed the Pledge of Allegiance because it was developed by Francis Bellamy, who is a socialist, or was a socialist, as a way to sell more issues of the magazine Youth's Companion. The pledge was conceived as a way... This is a quote from Libertarian Girl. The pledge was conceived as a way to promote nationalism in order to sell flags to schools as a premium to solicit subscriptions. Now, what's funny is that this is a blatant hit piece on Libertarian Girl. Blatant, and quite frankly, I laughed when I read it. Libertarian Girl is running his social media. She makes graphics for him. Or has put some forward, and they get approved, and they get put on. And anybody that follows Rand Paul on social media, he's not bad. His social media is good. And the pictures and stuff he's putting out are not radical, and they're not, hardcore libertarian. I don't see how her personal beliefs reflect his. You could argue that they agree on a lot of stuff. They could agree on everything. But since when is a Republican candidate recruiting more people from the Republican spectrum, and I'm lumping little L libertarians in there for this, so, forgive me libertarians that are not happy about that, but I'm lumping them in for the sake of the conversation. What is wrong with Rand Paul having an assortment of ideas in his staff? So, they've been trying to come out and say things like, Libertarian Girl supports Edward Snowden getting the Nobel Peace Prize. She thinks that, he's a great guy. I agree. I think Edward Snowden did a great thing in telling us what the country's doing, that they're spying on us. And I think that Rand Paul has been a great champion of, personal liberty. And I think as president, he would do a lot more in terms of NSA spying on us, net neutrality, and be better for business than some of these big business guys. And I say that because when you look at these big business guys that have gotten into office before, the ones that have oil connections, the ones that, look at Dick Cheney and Halliburton, that was a big stink on the left. With Rand Paul, he's a doctor. He is not this corporate flagship guy. He could get that way as the campaigns roll on. He could end up getting a lot in his camp. But again, getting these people in your camp is very different than endorsing their ideas. And having a absolutely, all over the spectrum people in your camp helping out with policy even is not such a bad thing. I mean, having these people come on board to contribute to show you the entire spectrum of the right. I tend to vote Republican even though I'm a libertarian because I think that the economy is not going to do so well under Democrats because that's been shown. I think my taxes are going to go up under Democrats. I think my health insurance went up under Obama. It is what it is. And I think that having the diverse ideas is going to help reach more people and make for better policy in terms of getting some of these libertarians some representation in the right. It's a whole voting block that the right misses out on when they go into these hardline conservatives and neocons. And having more libertarians helps moderate the candidate in a way that conservatives can support. For instance, there was a state legislature in Tennessee. It was Oklahoma, that was introducing a bill to get government out of marriage. And his reasoning for doing it was all wrong. But I always say it's important how you get there, but this is one of those instances when a clock, broken clock's right twice a day. He was trying to stop the federal courts from overturning, if you will, marriages, and trying to make it to where clerks who are opposed to gay marriage don't have to file gay marriages or something against their beliefs. And, I get that. However, when they take the job, that's kind of part of the territory. You have to follow the law when you work for the government, whether that's moral or not. Whether or not you should uphold just laws is an entirely different conversation. But I think that this was heading in the right direction. Having somebody come out and say, government needs to get out of marriage, that's not such a bad thing, because you get gay marriages, you get marriage to whomever you want, and you don't have to betray traditional beliefs, so you don't alienate the traditional beliefs block. Whether or not you think those beliefs are valid is kind of irrelevant, because it's still a voting block, and you have to get that voting block to win the Republican nomination. So for Rand Paul, having somebody on board that wants government out of marriage, like Libertarian Girl, that's not a bad thing. Having the support of the Ron Paul zealots is not a bad thing for him. Having libertarians on board is a huge victory for him, and will get him a lot of the independent votes, including my own. I'm registered as an independent. And it is what it is. But Republicans taking pot shots at Rand for hiring Libertarian Girl, it's, as the Reason.com article says, it's pitiful. It is just a nasty hit piece that really holds no water. And it might inflame some of the more conservative voters, but doesn't it hurt the movement overall when you try to alienate the libertarians and the coveted independents in an election? And quite frankly, you've got Jeb Bush moderating quite a bit. You've got Christie and Romney moderating. So why then is it so crazy that Rand Paul would hire a social media person that is a libertarian, is an ANCAP, an anarcho-capitalist? It's not such a bad thing. And I think that the neocons, the Republicans, they need a little more of that. And as we see more libertarian-minded people running on Republican tickets and winning, like Amash and Massey, you get more success overall. Because these folks are appealing to, Democrats who don't know better, Republican mainstream in a lot of ways, and then picking up the libertarian vote as well. And not only that, but their stances on guns, their stances on freedom will appeal to a lot of the hard right people. And so I caution all of you when you see these hit pieces on, this person is staunchly this way and they're working for that candidate. It doesn't reflect their beliefs. But since when does it hurt to have a diverse camp? I don't think it does. Now, let's move a little bit away from that and talk a little bit about what's been going on in Congress this week. The one thing that kind of hit the fan a little today was an abortion bill in the House. House leaders had to cancel the vote after some objections from female Republicans who deemed the rape exemption unacceptably narrow and burdensome. The bill in the House today would not let rape or incest victims get an abortion after 20 weeks unless they had filed a police report, although most women who are raped do not report it. Now, I think that getting into abortion so quickly, probably not the smartest move from Republicans, but I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to give conservatives something after their victories. Unfortunately, I think it's the wrong way to go. But there's a lot of people who flat out won't vote for a candidate unless they are good, quote unquote, on abortion. They want people that are not going to back abortion, and they want them on record proving that. And this was an easy way for them to make that vote, which they know, even if the Senate passes, is not going to make it past the president. It's not going to happen. And as one North Carolina rep said, Renee Elmers, she was one of the objectors that scuttled the bill. She said, "I believe our heart is in the right place, and we're standing up for what is right. But I think in order to be able to have in order to be able to have that conversation with the American people, we have always got to be speaking from the perspective of the individual and having compassion for women in all situations." Now, again, I think it's an issue they just need to stay away from, but I understand what they were doing. A lot of people, and today, obviously being the huge pro-life march, I get it. I absolutely get it. I just believe they're going about it the wrong way. Going in to try and prevent abortions at 20 weeks, the way they did, it didn't work. It wasn't going to work. And at this level, at this time, it's not the right call. And that kind of showed when moderate Republicans kind of came in and said this bill's not going to work. And so they watered down the language a lot and voted on it, and it passed. But again, it's just one of those things where I really don't think you guys are doing this. It should have been a little bit more well thought out before you just went and voted on it. It is what it is. But I get it, and so you have to see the politicking going on. It's about messaging. It's about getting on the record as being pro-life and winning those conservative votes. But this should have been well thought out. It should have spent more time being vetted before it was put forth as it was, and try to keep in mind that 80% of Americans think that abortion's acceptable in instances of rape and incest. And so coming in and having a requirement to report it to police, it hurts people. And so now it's just, you don't have to do the police report, so it's just ceremonial at best. But I think it's still interesting and still relevant because it shows that the staunch the staunch conservatives don't have as much pull in Congress as they originally thought. And it shows that, the moderates are kind of getting more of a foothold, or at least common sense won out in this instance, of what's smart politically. Whether or not you agree with the issue, different matter. But politically speaking, watering down that bill was good for Congress. Good for Republicans. Being on the record as staunchly opposing abortion can hurt in terms of Americans. And it's like still in the mid-50s on abortion in general, but the Supreme Court's ruled on it, and until you get a conservative court, you're not going to win these arguments. Now, another interesting thing that happened today, CIA officer Jeffrey Sterling was on trial today, and federal jury took up his conviction on whether or not to convict him of leaking charges, saying that he sent intelligence to a reporter on the CIA operation aimed at undermining Iran's nuclear program, espionage. There was a reporter for the New York Times, if I'm not mistaken, who reported on this, and